Hey everyone, welcome back to the Summit Live. I'm Alan Smith, Market Development Manager for Summit International Flooring.
And I'm Mark Becker, the National Sales Director, joining Alan today.
Yep, today we have some awesome guests. They're co-founders of Alchemy Studios here in New York City area. And I met Stephanie and Kat O'Brien, I guess about a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago. Just doing a random walk-in, and they were gracious enough to allow me to introduce myself and then later come in and bring some products. So I thank them in advance. We'll bring them on in just a moment. Mark, how are you?
I'm doing well, and walk-ins are a great way to eat. Sometimes you meet the best people by accident.
Seriously, yeah, and they're good people. So let's get right to it. We'll invite Stephanie and Kat onto the show.
Hi guys.
Hey.
Hey. It's always good when the sound works.
Yes, it is. We ironed that out first.
So thank you for joining us today. I know you know Alan. We haven't really met. I'm the guy that found Alan and put him in that role. So if you want vice president of good news, vice president of bad news, you need something to call Alan.
That's pretty much the truth. Yeah,
it's a good balance. Funny. Yeah,
we know everybody here really does work together. And we try to bring unique products to the market, and we're happy you recognize that. So,
absolutely, yeah.
Well, and speaking of interior design, I just want to say both your backgrounds look great.
Oh, thank you. I was telling Stephanie, it just happens that this is the only nice corner of my apartment. So it's a good deal.
I think a lot of us have discovered the nicest corners of our apartment.
Right. Yeah.
We learned a little bit last week when we did the show about redoing our studio. We learned a little bit about form and shape, and you got it going on.
Exactly.
I've learned so much doing the show, actually, more about interior design, which is extraordinarily helpful to us, how to serve you, because the better understanding we have, the better we can assist you when you tell us, hey, I'm looking for this or that. So it's been educational for us, and we do hope the series is educational for anyone in the industry, whether they're up and coming and they're looking to women-owned business like yourself or new businesses. So we really appreciate your insight.
So let's learn a little bit about your firm. And let's start with the name. It's an interesting name. Alchemy, many people might not know there's a meaning to that. So which one of you graduated with the English degree?
That's Kat. I'll let Kat tell the story because she came up with it.
Well, Stephanie and I started working together, like 8 years ago now or something.
Many years ago, yeah.
From the first project we worked on together as coworkers, we just had a really good synergy and balanced each other really nicely. And we kind of felt like together we had this kind of chemistry and could make magic out of anything that we were given. And definitely when we were starting out, we kind of had smaller projects with, tight design parameters and low budgets. And so we've always said that we can kind of take anything we're given and turn it into gold. So that's how we became Alchemy.
Yeah, people should look it up. It's interesting. It's very clever.
I love
the unicorn.
It's very magical, which is right on brand.
Yeah, I thought of you when I put that together. I thought you would appreciate that.
That's like perfect for us.
Our website needs an update, so if you could
in his spare time. So you worked together at a different firm?
We did. Yep, we met while working at Whitehall Interiors and Hill West Architects, and we worked together there for about 4 or 5 years. Which was great, and loved working, in a really big company, learned a ton, got to see, the full spectrum of everything from concept through completion for so many projects. But we just felt like we really wanted to be a little bit more hands-on and make the whole design process a little bit more boutique and personal. So that's how we became Alchemy and kind of went from the really big architect's office to just our own little design studio. I
have to ask. I have 2 brothers that I grew up with. I work with Alan and other people all day long. We don't always agree. What do you do when you have different design concepts for the same project? How do you work that dichotomy out?
It kind of just happens naturally. It's like our process. You know, we'll show whether it's material ideas to each other, like a rendering, and everybody gives their perspective. You know, maybe switch out this one flooring material, maybe switch out this ceiling material. It just is kind of a collaborative process that we've had from the beginning. So it's actually the way we design stuff now. It's I can't imagine doing a project without Kat or the team to have their eye on it. So it's almost like the more comments, the better. And it is sometimes difficult to hear other people's perspectives on design, but it always makes it better.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's going to have a different perspective, even when you're working as a team.
Yeah.
Now, your first project, 236 West 10th, as Alchemy,
Yes.
it went viral, didn't it?
Yeah, it was funny because this was totally one of those tiny projects, you know, a client kind of gave us as a favor to us as a new design studio, and kind of just let us run with it and see what we could come up with. And it was our first shot at really designing something, you know, on our own as Alchemy, and totally one of those, you know, budget projects, and lots of, you know, problem solving and different parameters. It was a landmarked building, you know, only so many things that we could do here. So we just kind of ran with it, and it ended up being pretty iconic for our brand and what people identify as like our Alchemy style. So
yeah, and it got repinned on Pinterest quite a bit. On Instagram, it actually became like people loved it for some reason. So we were really excited about that.
So is that where much of your new business comes from people that find you through Pinterest and other social?
We have had somebody walk past that particular building, like the design, and look us up that way. So, you know, it's funny that it went as far as that for something that was just such a, you know, a small project. But a lot of our new business is referrals and word of mouth, and just, you know, kind of meeting the right people, and hopefully just doing good work and letting that show. So
Yeah, no, it's awesome work. And you guys, in all of your designs, it seems that there's a play of light and dark and contrast. Where does that come from?
I think that's just like our inherent style. We just kind of like some moody spaces, and we always like to throw something in. And Kat has kind of a funny phrase that we say internally a little bit.
Is there something
scare everybody or stay home?
Yeah, scare everybody
or stay home. So just kind of meaning, like, you know, we really want our designs to feel unique, and so that people see them and you know, it evokes something memorable for them, and then also, you know, speaks to the Alchemy design style. So we kind of like to take a risk here and there. I think just as a company, we really value making interiors that are very timeless, so that, you know, 10 years down the road, they don't look time stamped and dated. But we do like to throw in some things that give each space its own, you know, personality and something fun. And I think that light and dark contrast is something that's really eye-catching, and I think is a really effective way to make a space look really cool and visually interesting when you don't necessarily have a lot of materials or resources to work with. So
it's great that you haven't had that natural light, how you've used the soffit lighting. So the fixture of the light is not the focal point of the room, but the light adds to the space. It's really stunning. Great work.
Thank you.
Yes, lighting is so important. So
most definitely, it makes or breaks a room.
Yes.
Yeah.
So when you want to create timeless design, do you start with colors that you can change the pillow but not have to necessarily disrupt the business to change the floor, or are you starting with materials that are more timeless to you and then looking towards color?
It can go either way. I feel like typically we try to keep, like what Kat had mentioned, the bones of a room, something timeless. So that means whether it be like your wall paint, wall covering, flooring, etc. Like those bones, we really like to be stand the test of time. But like you can see, it's easier to change the blanket behind me and the pillow, like you're mentioning, than redo the entire space. So I think we do try to get those pops through artwork, lighting, FF&E, all of the accessories, because it's just a more economical and affordable way to achieve, that pop, but also make it, if you want to change it or something needs to evolve later on, that it's also not, redoing an entire room to achieve that.
Well, and for the planet also, because you're not moving as much to a landfill 15, 20 years later.
Totally. And that's something we keep in mind. It's a little different if you're doing a restaurant or hospitality where you can be really specific and have a space that's all hot pink or one color or something crazy. But, when we're doing mostly multifamily residential buildings, we have to keep in mind that this is something that people have to want to come home to every day. And, our clients want their tenants and residents to stay there for years at a time. So we don't want to be off-putting by doing something that, 6 months down the road after someone moves in, they're going to look around and think, I don't really like this. I'm sick of seeing this crazy green wall every time I come into my apartment, or it's too dark in here and it doesn't feel like home. So using those classic and timeless materials and, bones of the design is really helpful in achieving that.
In those multifamily, sound damping, has that become a more important issue of late?
Sorry, you said sound?
Yeah. Do you take into consideration sound? I would imagine you have to take into consideration sound dampening when you have multifamily type projects.
Yeah, most definitely. You also have to consider on some of these projects that the amenity spaces can be like next door to someone's apartment, that, maybe like the gym is below some apartments. You have to really, these multifamily projects are, like Kat had mentioned, kind of like puzzles. There's a lot to consider. You have not only how the space functions in its own, you have what the marketing team needs to be able to lease them. You need to take durability into consideration, price point. It's just, there's a million parameters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think this is where someone like Alan is helpful, because let's just say, for example, you're not experts in everything. Nobody is. So let's say you go into a project and now you find that there are fitness facilities on the top floor, and sound's going to go through the air vents and come down a floor, maybe even 2 floors. So you have to know everything. You have to know what side of the refrigerator the door opens from. So you can know sound dampening a gym and the refrigerator and everything else in between. That's where Alan comes in, and he can talk to you about underlayments or thicknesses and help you through your projects. And that's where the cooperation is.
Totally. Yeah. We credit
satisfying part of what we do.
Yeah. We credit so much of what we do to all of the amazing reps that we work with, who help us every day, all day, find the right products and help us problem solve all of those things that we just, we can't know everything about. So
has it been difficult for you working with your reps since COVID started?
It's definitely been different, just because I think, the old relationship with reps and a lot of design studios where reps would email or come in, and then you'd have a presentation and see the materials yourselves, or, like to the team. And I think it's a exercise to show someone new materials or to show them the qualities of a material over the internet or a Zoom call. We've also had challenges designing and selecting materials with that, where you're like, it looks good on the screen, but I need the physical samples to ensure that it's really what we need. So yeah, it's been a little bit challenging, but I can imagine from a rep's point of view that really created some hurdles to cross.
Well, it's nothing that money can't fix, right?
Right.
So we found a problem. We built the studio that we're working from.
Yeah.
The other
You're saying it looks great.
We use the studio for presentations because we have a light box and we have 4 high-def cameras. And for example, I know our product DuraWood. We can put that.
Yes, we love this one.
Yes.
And I'm on too bright of lights here where I'm holding it. But the fact is, we have products that look like wood but have sound dampening because they're cement that are put on a rubber backing. We have lots of unique products. So when you see that product for the gym and you want a solid color or a near solid color, and you don't know how thick to make it, that's where Alan comes in. But it's been hard for him because he can't just say, "Hey, let's go meet for a cup of coffee," because even the coffee shops.
Yeah.
I thank you.
We're definitely missing
for rubber. So thank you so much for that.
Yeah, exactly. And I think we used one of those specs too. So the wood rubbers and the natural looking rubbers and all of those materials that are really durable and help achieve all these goals of, the acoustics and durability and maintenance are amazing for us. So we love that one. Is one of our favorites.
We've been trying to be really creative. Mine too. We've been trying to be very creative in the way that we can help people. And it started in the very beginning of this, hey, let's send samples to people's homes and then we'll bring them back so they don't clutter their homes. It was such a basic thing, but I think people were so panicked in the beginning when COVID first reached us that they really didn't know which direction to run.
Yeah. So I was even emailing a couple of other reps for different products, actually for the products that you see here. This is Uhuru, their company, their coffee table, and this is Technion. And I was telling the reps, I was like, I miss actually presentations or wine and cheese events where I can talk to other reps of different products, because just the whole interaction between all of us, designers, reps, vendors, whatever, architects, like you learn from that experience. And I felt like so much of that has been missing. So this, again, is like a way of helping to fill that void so we can be a little more communal and share ideas together.
So one last point of shameless self-promotion, then we want to get back to you. If we can, with your clients, if your clients need to see a variety of product, we can always schedule to use the studio with you at your home, Alan here. We can show a lot of things close up in that light box to your clients, and then we can send samples as necessary. So use us as if we work for you, because we do.
Well, that's fantastic. That's great.
And you guys have always been so helpful.
Now coming back to your firm, if most of your new business is word of mouth or because people have seen things, somebody's coming to you because they want either to redo an existing space or they have something new. Do you have a preference what you like to sink your teeth into, or what are the pros and cons to you when you're working with existing versus working something new?
I kind of love them both equally, and I think they're both really important to do because you learn so much from each. They're two totally different animals, but it's kind of fun to always have new sets of challenges depending on the type of project you're working on. We are known for doing multifamily work, but we do a lot of renovation work. We do commercial work. We want to do retail and hospitality, but I think that's part of the fun, and what makes each design unique is having, totally different parameters that you have to work within and different challenges for every space. So, I think that's what makes every room we do and every building unique is, the input from all of these different outside factors, and what we come up with in the end is never necessarily what we thought it was going to look like in the beginning, but it helps us narrow it down to what the final product is. So we like doing all of it.
Yeah, you've also mentioned spaces affect our emotions, and you've noticed that in interviews and things like that. So what does that mean exactly, and how do you approach that? Because if you're taking on that responsibility of affecting how I feel that day, I mean, how do you as a designer manage that?
I think what Kat said earlier about understanding that, someone's interacting with the space on a day-to-day, you kind of need to paint an environment that allows them to feel like comfortable and rested, whether that be in like an amenity space or a public space, and it's something a little more fun and poppy, or something in your apartment that's a little more like calm and soothing, so you can put your own items in there and personalize it more. We just try to cater to where people can put their lifestyle or their activities in that area and be comfortable and have the necessary items within that to, function on their day-to-day life.
And you're also expert problem solvers and not designers.
Yeah, honestly.
Have you had any like uncanny unexpected problems that have come up, and how have you overcome them?
I mean, I think there's literally a problem a day. That's part of being, in our industry and a business owner. And, it's more about, as Kat and I talk about, the farther we get into our company, it's how you approach them and your attitude towards it, not necessarily the direct response. So, I mean, it could be anywhere where you order a sofa and it shows up double the size and it doesn't fit in the elevator and you have no way to return it, to we recently did a private apartment where I took large paint samples, put it on the wall. Everybody agreed that that was the perfect shade. It got painted and it turned out way too yellow. And then we had to repaint their apartment. So, I mean, you just never really know.
It's like,
Never-
we have so many people involved on a project, and we'll get so far designing a space, and then an architect will be like, oh, I forgot to tell you there's a column right in the middle of the room there. And a lot of people would try to find all these ways to get rid of the column and make everybody's job harder, but we kind of see it as like, okay, we have this column in the room, how do we make something cool out of it, or work around it to make it a feature rather than a problem. So
Yeah,
I
you're
think
problem managing and you're improvising. You're not just picking out pretty colors.
No.
we're not. Yeah.
We joke about this. Like I tell Kat sometimes, like, I think my family thinks I pick out pillows, but it's like at the end of the day, we have like calculators out, there's rulers out, there's, different conversions going on. You're meeting with different consultants and structural people. It's way more involved.
That we're always like, come on, we're just the interior designer here, because that's kind of how people treat us. But then because we're often the last, trade in a project, they all kind of depend on us for this last round of coordinating everything. So, we have the mechanical consultants wanting our input on things, electrical, plumbing, the architect, and all of these different things. So at the end of the day, our expertise is interior design, but it really requires us to know a little bit about everything. And while we would love to just be interior designers, it turns out we're, it encompasses a lot more than just the picking out of pillows and paint colors. So
yeah, I mean, you guys do an enormous amount of work, seriously. And I think like there are shows on television that reflect that a little bit. But you don't really see all the boring work too, and like the reading, the time online that you spend, and emails. And like you said, you have to build relationships with people, and you build relationship with contractors, with clients, with vendors, and that's part of it too. And I think you guys are great people to work with. If you had a dream project that you can like bring people together and do yourself, what would it be?
I want to hear what Kat says.
Oh, that's such a good question.
Yeah,
I would love to design my own dream home someday. But I always think like a really fun kind of small bar or restaurant would be, with like no parameters, would be really fun to design, because I think that's where that's kind of the furthest from what we do, in the sense that it is a short-term space where people go and they don't have to live there. So, you can use all of the materials that we don't often get the opportunity to, and just kind of go wild and let your imagination run.
You'll have to go to some island somewhere to do this.
Yes, that sounds very fun, and
Please,
I'm into it. Yes.
Well,
what's your stuff?
You said it, the bar or restaurant. Yeah, same thing.
Well, what about your personal inspirations too? Maybe we'll start with Steph, and Kat, you can answer as well. But do you draw from art, nature, the city, philosophy? Like, where does that creative energy and juice come from?
I think it's a little bit of everything. I know we were talking before we started today that nature gives us a huge, source of inspiration. I think all walks of art, whether that be fashion or art itself, sculpture. I love looking at interior design magazines. I went to school for architecture. I think it's kind of a holistic thing when you're in the art world, as I'm sure Kat would agree with, or like most artists do, that, it's philosophy, like you mentioned, books. I think you can kind of draw inspiration from anything. And I'm looking forward to the COVID world ceasing so we can get back to being able to go to our sources of inspiration.
Well, Alan knows you a little bit better than I do because I don't know you at all. But what I'm seeing today is that it's not just what inspires you that gets your juices flowing, but I think the challenges. It looks to me like you really tackle the challenges and appreciate it. You're learning every day. It makes the days go by fast. It lets you get involved in lots of different things, and that's kind of why we like our jobs. You know, we didn't know about. I didn't know about what an acoustician was going to do to muck up the project right when we thought we had the product chosen.
Right.
You know, we learn things every day also, and I think that makes it kind of exciting to get up in the morning not knowing exactly what the day is going to bring in front of you.
Of course, I'm very lucky because Mark, the National Sales Director for Summit, has trained me from the beginning. I had zero experience in this. So I just always go to Mark for answers. Well, if there's an email, I'm probably emailing Mark first.
The fact is, I'm probably emailing somebody else to get the answers. What's important is what you and Alan have developed is the relationships. And when I met him, I thought if I got a house and this guy came out from next door, I would like my new neighbor.
Thanks, Mark.
Yeah,
Totally. Alan is definitely up there in our favorite reps, and such a pleasure to work with.
Developing your relationships with not only your clients but all of your vendors. That's what we do. We all develop relationships, and we tell the truth. And that's another thing that Summit doesn't like to look. Let's not overgeneralize about everybody, but we like to take people from outside the industry. We work in the luxury segment. We work in the high end. And if something's going to take 5 weeks to get, we're not going to tell you it's going to take 2 weeks. It's going to take 5. And sometimes you lose an opportunity, but you get 10 more opportunities because you told the truth.
right.
And so I love seeing what's developed between the three of you, and really appreciate the fact that you have used and continue to look at and consider Summit products into your project. So thank you very much for that.
Well, thank you. And thank you to Alan to constantly showing us what's new and how we can implement the different products in our projects, because there's sometimes that you think like a rep or a company only has one item and they're like, did you also know that we have these 4 other things? And you've been very good at introducing those to us.
Oh, thanks, guys. Appreciate that. But before we go, I do want to ask you too, did you want to share any thoughts about what you do that we haven't covered? Any questions we haven't asked about what your industry or whatever?
I don't know. That's a good. I think we covered.
I know we
covered
covered
a
a lot.
lot, but
Okay.
yeah,
Well,
I think it's a.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think, yeah, it's a very rewarding job, and I think we feel really lucky that we get to work with each other and our friends in such a great small team. And I think the world is your oyster, and you have everything in front of you, and it's all about what you make out of it. So even in the pandemic, we've been very lucky, to have each other in our team. And yes,
Yes.
hopefully we can continue. But
Well,
yeah, we're just feeling
feeling
lucky to be here.
if people watching today, or a lot of times more people I think see us on their own time, not when we're live, but when they see the reruns of today's show, if they're looking for light, airy, timeless designs, they should definitely look at your website, see if your work
Thank
fits
you.
them. Like it excited us to ask you to come join us today, and people should reach out to Alchemy Studios.
Thank you so much. Yeah, that's great.
Do you want to take a step today?
Okay, so we're gonna close out the show, and we're gonna see you soon, hopefully. And thank you for your
Absolutely.
time today.
Yeah,
Every
thank you guys for having us.
Yes, thank you.
So
Thank you so much, guys.
Yep, every week, people can come see us live on Tuesdays at 2:00 Eastern Standard Time. We try to interview and meet people within the industry, share thoughts and ideas with each other. If anybody's watching and wants to be part of the show, please send me an email or give me a phone call. Let's talk about possibly having you on a future episode. If anybody wants samples or has any questions about any products, you can always reach us at info@summit-flooring.com or on our toll-free number 877-496-3566.
And I did want to add, Mark, originally David Newmark, our president, was supposed to co-host today, but he was feeling under the weather, so he's not with us today, just so you all know. But he is okay.
Yeah, David's doing just fine. And so are we. We appreciate you. Thank you all for watching, and we will see you next week on Summit Live.